Welcome back after a brief hiatus to Molby On The Spot here in Anfield Index Pro. I'm Trev Downey. I'm, of course, here in my field in beautiful rural Ireland, podcasting away, as always, to you, and joined, as always, by the very legend that is Mr. Jan Molby to talk about all things Liverpool. Good evening, Jan.
Yeah, good evening, Trevor. It has indeed been a little while, but it's a nice time to be back in it after a couple of wins.
You know what, buddy? It was a good time to be away as well, if we're being perfectly honest, because it's tough. It was a tough spell, and I found, I'm sure you did yourself with your own media commitments, it was getting hard to keep saying the same things about how hopefully we'll learn lessons and hopefully we'll turn a corner, and we don't seem to be doing anything any different. And it was feeling quite hopeless, I'll be honest. You know yourself, you deal with them yourself on a day-to-day basis. There are different types of people, and some people are deliberately positive in a way that's almost annoying, and some people are deliberately negative in a way that's almost annoying. You and I seem to float around in the middle, but I'm sure you were starting to get a little bit worried, not quite slot out, but surely you must have been a bit concerned just before apparently the corner got turned there.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, and I'm sure we'll touch on this, whether the corner's turned or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I was at the Brentford game. I knew the Brentford game would be difficult because of the way and the questions that they asked, because of the way that they play. But I generally thought that, you know, we'd run the plank, and I thought, well, we got to stand up to this one. We got to be ready for this one. You know, what they've got, we got to be ready. So I thought that was a real low period where you think, how do we get out of this? What is the next step? And obviously, it looked like the next step was a step back. Going back to the midfield that we used last year, and Andy Robertson being reintroduced as a left back and gives us a bit more calm. And I also think the fact that, and this is a big part as well, Trev, is we had 2 home games. We had 2 tough home games, but we had 2 home games. And there's one thing you can always lean against when you're in trouble is Anfield, isn't it? And Anfield have produced 2 performances, 2 clean sheets. But the unfortunate thing is that we go again, don't we, Trevor? We go again on Sunday, and boy, it's a tricky game.
Yeah, and we might as well just touch on it briefly here, because I want to round out your thought that you alluded to there, because, yeah, I suggested this idea about the corner being turned, and it's the easy narrative to follow. But I'm just wondering if your suspicion around that is the same as mine, because mine comes from the fact that we played 2 teams, Aston Villa in particular, I couldn't fathom, who, despite having a clear blueprint for how you get at Liverpool, and it's not complicated, Jan, they chose to try to play through us, and it played into our hands. And in fact, you think about Mo Salah's goal, it comes from that. Real Madrid are always going to Real Madrid. But I could see a world in which Pep Guardiola cynically goes to Haaland as quickly as possible, and that might unsettle us tremendously. Well, it would unsettle any team, to be fair. Do you think we can accurately judge whether that corner has been turned against City or not? Because, like I say, if we'd been beaten against Real Madrid, if the performance had been good, you could just hold up your hands. The same you could say about City. They're a very, very good team. Is it dangerous to judge whether or not the progress has been made on whatever happens on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. I generally do think so, Trevor. Now, in terms of how Pep Guardiola might decide to play the game, under normal circumstances, you say, well, Pep is 100% a football man. He's going to play out from the back. But I think we saw some proofs from 6-7 weeks ago when they went to Arsenal, you know, and completely rewrote the way that they played. And he sort of defended it after the game by going, listen, the game's changing, and we have to change with it. The only good thing in terms of them going long and quick is that they no longer have Ederson. They no longer have that ping, do they? You know, where he could ping the balls. They now have a goalkeeper who's a lot more sluggish with his kicking, and he's not as accurate. But it wouldn't surprise me if they're going to go, listen, we're going to get it forward. We're not going to allow Liverpool, because we did the same. Within 5 or 6 minutes on Tuesday against Real Madrid, you kind of knew, didn't you, Trevor? You know, you sit and you go, okay, this is going our way. They're playing into our hands. They want to play out from the back. They want to play at their own tempo, which is a gift from heaven, isn't it? When you get a team that go, watch me, and I can play, well, you can't, you know, because Anfield is going to eat you up. And that's exactly what happened. I knew straight away against. Then the question, of course, is that, You're going to be able to keep them out and you're going to score your goals in it. But I knew the game would be a game that we would like, whether it was going to be enough in the end, I don't know, but it was enough in the end. City might be different. He might decide to go long up to Erling Haaland, fight for second balls, and make sure the ball spends more time in our half than it does in their own half. So it is a tricky one. It's also a tricky one to try and predict in terms of how he wants to play. I was at the Etihad Wednesday night when they played Dortmund, and again Dortmund naively played out from the back, and it suited City. You never really got to their back line. But it's a big game, but I'm not suggesting it's a game we need to win. I think it's a game we need to be able to go there and not get beat, because I'm still adamant that we're the first challengers of Arsenal and not City. As well as we're now looking at one defeat in the last 13 games, but I'm still not convinced. I'm still 100% convinced that we have a better team, and so do Arsenal, to be fair. Liverpool and Arsenal are better than City. So we need to be able to go there on Sunday and at least avoid getting beat.
Yeah, and that will be the focus of the last part of the show, folks, so don't worry, we will come back to City. But, it had gotten pretty bleak, as I say, Jan. The simple truth is we went from a position where we were several points clear at the top of the table to languishing 7 points behind the leaders. We're still 7 points behind the leaders, but it could have gotten so much worse against Villa. And it had a feel that, there was a lot riding on that. When you saw the Villa performance, I'm sure you were hardened, as most of us were. And it really embarrasses me at times to see how simple things can break down, because it just seemed like two things happened. Several of our players, like Alexis McAllister, regained a bit of form, and our effort levels across the board were more consistent throughout the match. When you think about football being that simple, it renders an awful lot of the talk about it null and void, doesn't it? Because unless I'm mistaken, that's what I saw, Jan.
Exactly. And to be fair, Trevor, with the way that football is being viewed by a lot of people today with stats, it is quite easy to see, isn't it? If you do more of this, you got a chance, i.e. if you run further than what you used to, or you run further than the opposition, you got a chance. If you make sure you win your second balls, you got a chance that all them things fall into place. And I know a lot of people go, that can't be all. No, but it's always a starting point. It's always a starting point in it. So even the Aston Villa game, and we spoke about going back to the midfield from last year and Robbo being back at right back, but also thought that when we didn't have the ball, Mo Salah chucked in a little bit more and was more active in our press. He wasn't as active as he was at the height of Jurgen Klopp's time here, but he was more active, whereas he kind of had a free role where when we don't have the ball, you can do whatever you want, isn't it? But I thought against Aston Villa, he chucked himself in a little bit, and he go, well, okay, I've got the ball in front of me, I've got the left back, full back in front of me, and it just helped everybody out a little bit. Sometimes it is simple. It doesn't make it automatically make you play better, Trevor, but it does give you, those 5-6 minutes, especially when you've lost. Before Aston Villa, we lost 6 out of 7. And you need a little bit of a good feel, don't you? You go, okay, you win it. I mean, even going back to, and my game was never about winning a tackle. It was about something else. But when you're not having a good time, even football, I felt good when I needed to win a tackle, when things weren't going your way, and even for Mo, simple things, because he had looked extremely frustrated with himself and with his form and fighting everything is, and then you go, well, let's just win a couple of, and when you win a couple of tackles, you get everybody on side, don't you? Everybody goes, yeah, okay, he's having a go, well, let's go. So it was very much needed, that's for sure.
And it seemed to have progressed even more against Carreras. It was back to the usual thing. Mo Salah in a wrestling match, and Mo Salah, not getting any decisions, despite the fact that he's usually the one being pulled and dragged. He's such a strong individual, pound for pound, as strong as anyone in that league. It's interesting to watch. On Mo, there's one thing I wanted to ask you about. Obviously, he got his kind of opportunistic goal with the keeper's rick that he made, but he still has to finish that first time with what is for Mo effectively a standing leg, if we're being honest. And it's a great goal. It's a great finish. the very, very notably muted celebrations from him, more the lack of smiling than anything else was the killer for me. It brought back a lot of conversations that had been going on about how perhaps he was particularly affected by the loss of Jota. And then in more recent times, because the bad form, inverted commas, had gone on for quite a while, and God knows it wasn't just Mo, but he's the focus because he's the big name. There was all sorts of critiques of him. And I was reminded during the week, I heard Stevie Gerrard say, it's a lot different from when we were playing. This is Steven Gerrard talking about when he was playing. What did he finish? 2015, 16 in with us? Played another few years in America. He says, it's a lot different from when we were playing. There's a lot more keyboard warriors. Now, I know you're a sensible man who keeps your nose out of all that realm, but obviously players don't. And we saw Mo bite back and defend the lads who had been sold during the summer when people were saying, look at the upgrades we've made here. He was very much demanding some respect for the lads who had won the league, and we can celebrate the new boys without denigrating the old boys, was the gist of it. And I kind of wondered, Jesus, maybe do you think he is? We know how proud he is, Jan. Do you think maybe it had got to him, the criticism, and he was kind of feeling very disrespected?
Yeah, I think so. How can you not? Because it did get a bit silly, didn't it? I mean, it got to the extent that, and every time we got to produce a show, the producers always want to talk about certain things, which I try and avoid. I said, because it's not really the story, but the story and the noise on the social media got heavy, didn't you? You had to reply to it. You know what I mean? It was getting so heavy, not just the criticism of the players, but also Arne Slot's out and he's been found out and all these things. And you go, wow, where's all this come from? But he was for real. Whether the majority of the people who putting all this out are for real, they said, but he almost felt like he was for real, wasn't it? And if that's where you spend your time, you probably would end up with, I'd say, what the Liverpool fans are not happy. But what we also know is, Trevor, that we never take an opinion or a view until we've seen the fans at the next game at Anfield. That's the real gauge, isn't it? Well, all right, let's see how bad it is. And he's never anywhere near as bad as this on social media, is it? But you had to. So the only thing I will say is, so we spoke about Mo, and what was also trending was Arne Slot out, wasn't it? And yeah, deep down it's ridiculous, isn't it? The only thing I will say is that, again, it's a change in the world, Trevor, isn't it? Because we have a tendency, we don't sack as managers as other clubs. But modern times, we also have been forced to dismiss managers over the years. And the only thing I will say is that it's maybe not the norm for Liverpool to sack managers, but it's also not the norm for Liverpool to spend over 400 million. And when you put that into the pot, it kind of creates a whole new scenario, doesn't it? Whereas people go, whoa, hold on, give Arne Slot the time that he deserves, and he's earned our respect. And then people go, yeah, but we give him over 400 million. So what is he going to produce for us? So everything changes, doesn't it, Trevor? 1 minute you go, well, this is not what we do, but we give him 400 million. So expectations, unrealistic expectations, are there. And that's why some people, even sometimes some people you cannot respect, and they're starting to question because of the money that he's spending in the summer. And so it is a wicked circle, isn't it? I mean, can you imagine being involved today, Trevor? I mean, doing what we do, and I don't know so much with you because you're on my show, so what I do, but almost what we do feels almost too much, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And can you then imagine living it like they do? Driving in that the training ground, people shouting at you, people applauding you. It's just relentless. There's no escaping it. No escaping it whatsoever.
No escape. If I was to show you my Twitter timeline for the last 24 hours, where I've been absolutely pilloried by weird little Mancunians and Arsenal fans, it's unbelievable. They just come out to play, and it is a different world, and the players, like you rightly say, and I think it's a very good point, they live in that world, and if we think they don't, we're fooling ourselves. Of course they do. They're of a generation that do. And they've constantly got their devices in their hands. They're constantly checking their profiles and seeing what people are saying, not just about them, but about things in general. So it's unavoidable for them. And I'm glad you brought in the Arne Slot thing, because that was getting to quite, as you say, quite a heated stage. And in the interest of fairness, Jan, I do want to ask you what you think would have happened if the slump had continued. And let's be honest, it was pretty bloody abject. The last 2 games, or 3 games, I think we've missed 2 weeks. It could be up to 4 games since we last spoke. They were bad. They were bad performances. I mean, kind of hopeless, despondent performances where there might have been a flurry for 10 or 15 minutes, but not even a good half. Like, terrible stuff. And I kind of wonder, do you think if that had continued, if the sort of, haplessness had continued through Villa, maybe a bit of humiliation against Real Madrid, who, if we weren't at it, could have torn us apart. If Conor Bradley doesn't have the game of his life, Vinicius Jr. has the ability to tear you apart, keep pinging balls across the 6-yard box, they're going to score a few goals. Is there a situation where we could be having that conversation this evening, you and I, in a realistic way, saying it doesn't look good and it doesn't look like he can turn it around, and odd and all as it seems, he's a league-winning manager. Do we need to change? Would that have been a fair conversation, do you think?
So the sensible question is to say no, because leading up to the Aston Villa game, you never felt that was anything that was being mentioned within the 4 walls of the club. Yeah, there's nobody in senior positions at Anfield who would even entertain talking about the manager position. And we have these things. I mean, I've been pretty adamant for a long time about Ruben Amorim, the fact that he's not under pressure and he ain't going nowhere. But that's all very good saying that, isn't it? Had we lost 2-0 at home against Aston Villa and got beat 3-0 by Real Madrid, then it is one of them things, and then you need to readdress it, isn't it? But no, I think it's going to take a lot. And also because I think there is some understanding from within, from the people that bought the players, and also from the people who've sold the players and gone, this is going to take a bit longer, isn't it? But I also bet your bottom dollar, Trevor, is that the people who bought the players are also looking at this whole thing now and thinking, it's great that we're back winning, but what we really need, and we spoke about this, I remember we spoke about this 6 weeks ago, Trevor, is that how do we get out of this? Do we go back to last season, or do we carry on with the new players? And I felt the best solution is to carry on with the new players and crack it with them. So that would probably be the biggest pressure he's under, is that the people who bought the players kind of go, well, all the players we brought you, we need them involved. There's a reason we bought them. Okay, we're not looking, they don't need all 5 of them to win, to play each other, but we do need two or 3 of them in the team being key figures, because that's what they've been bought as, isn't it? We bought what we believe is the best left back in the league, and we bought Eki Turtle, we bought Florian Wirtz, we bought Alexander Isak to be key men. We haven't brought them as squad players, we want them to be key men. So that'll be the kind of pressure he's feeling from the people above, who's thinking, hey, well done, Alan, 2 really good results, but what about our new boys? We need our new boys involved. We need our new boys to be able to stamp our authority on this. So that's the next, and that's a big challenge, that, Trevor. It's a big challenge, that.
It's massive, and it makes me wonder, and we had this conversation on a show just before the Aston Villa game. I really would have loved to get your take on it at the time, when it was kind of very poignant because of how bad things were. But it's no less relevant to ask now. We were all very smug about our recruitment during the summer. We were all very, very content. Let's say that. We were all very content with it. We all thought it was great. The gay thing did stick in the craw a bit, but anyone who's saying that would have made all the difference, I think, might be missing a trick. Is there a way of reading it, Jan, that maybe the recruitment wasn't as clever as we thought it was? We signed Florian Wirtz, and he must have been told he's going to be the 10 because of how long that was persisted with 2 men behind him, and that creating all the knock-on effects it created for lack of cover, exposure of the defence, a left back being told to do things that's not natural to him, a right back who was signed who has had a couple of niggles and can't get, and Conor Bradley started the season with niggles as well. it just feels as if maybe it wasn't quite the dream ticket that we all thought it was, and that there are a couple of glaringly obvious things, which is that we need the old midfield, last year's midfield, to be there in its entirety, or with Curtis swapping in. I think that's fair to say. And if that's the case, did we think this through? We bought a 10. What did we think was going to happen? Now, we're going to talk about Real Madrid in a minute, and it feels almost like Arne's fallen arse backwards into realising that that's where he should be in the team. But do you think there's a world where the recruitment maybe was not quite as clever as we all thought it was?
So, I always think with the Florian Wirtz is that we were, I don't believe we were involved massively in that transfer, because I think we believed that he was going to go out to Real Madrid, and once he didn't fancy Real Madrid, he was going to go to Manchester City. That's how I read the situation, and I think I'm right in saying that he went to Manchester City and had that chat with whoever at Manchester City. I would suggest that Pep Guardiola would have been part of that discussion at some stage, and Pep might not have told him what he liked, because I would be amazed if Pep puts his arm around somebody and goes, "Listen, you come here, son, and we're going to make it all about you." I think Pep is a different type of man. He goes, "Listen, you come here, you compete with some of the best players in the world, and good luck. You get in the team, you don't get in the team." And I think we've got proof for that, because a lot of new players who come to City spend a lot of time sitting next to Pep on the bench until they learn the way. But then we're led to believe that he met with Arne Slot, and Arne Slot really impressed him. So he must have said something, Arne Slot, mustn't he? And could that have been, "We're going to build a team around you," which is very unlike Liverpool, isn't it? I don't think they said that to Kenny Dalglish when they signed him in 1977. I certainly know that they didn't say that to John Barnes when they signed him in 1987. "We're going to build a team around you." So that would have been very unusual. You're going to be able to play in your preferred position, which is central. So that might have been a mistake. So,
Jan, you know what they definitely didn't say to him? They definitely didn't say, "We're going to play you at 10, and then when that doesn't work, we're going to move you to the left, and then we're going to move you to the right, and maybe you'll be part of a double pivot." They definitely didn't say that. No. So it's odd, isn't it? It just, the whole thing feels a bit weird. It feels a little bit strained, and it kind of makes you wonder where was the decision-making process in all of this? Even down to something as simple, Jan, as signing both Ekitike and Isak. We're all giddy about it. We still haven't even a sample size of Isak. Ekitike, I think, has looked incredibly bright for us. Really loved him in the midweek there in the Champions League, but it felt really un-Liverpool signing both of those at the same time. So I'm just confused as to the thought process, I'll be honest.
I think we were entitled to be excited in the summer because we signed what is perceived to be good players or great players, and that should always excite you. If great players coming to your club doesn't excite you, then there's something wrong with it, isn't it? But I also think it's okay to sit here now in early November and go, or look at it and go, well, maybe we didn't quite think it through. So if we're now thinking that the midfield three from last year plus Curtis Jones is the best way to go because it gives us some kind of balance and it gives us some solidity. And Florian Wirtz, who played really well, drifting in from the left against Real Madrid. Well, that would surely mean that the two nines we bought both can't play, can they? Because we had that dream, didn't we? We had that dream, so we go, okay, Ekitike has been so bright, he needs to play, and obviously Alexander Isak with that fee needs to play, so we play Ekitike on the left and we'll be just fine. So now we created a problem there as well, haven't we? Where we panic a little bit because we didn't think that we were going to get Alexander Isak over the line, and we thought, well, we get somebody else before Newcastle because Newcastle were obviously planning on signing Ekitike and then maybe letting Isak go, and maybe we panicked a little bit. I don't know whether the plan ever was to sign two players, which, although Alexander Isak has shown absolutely nothing as a Liverpool player, we know what he's capable of, and we know his role isn't to sit on the bench. And I know people keep saying they've been signed for 5 or 6 years. I understand all that, but as a new player costing in excess of 100 million, that's not how you view it, is it? Alexander Isak views it as the next game I'm available for, I need to play because I need to get my career at Anfield up and running. He does not look at the bigger picture. That's not how it works, Trevor. It's all very good saying, oh, and he's got plenty. Yeah, he has got plenty of time, but in his mind right now, he has got no time. because he wants to be on the same page as everybody else. He wants to announce himself. I keep saying that every time I talk about new players at Anfield, you need to announce yourself. Doesn't matter what you've done anywhere else. Doesn't watch with Liverpool fans. Yeah, he was great for Newcastle. Come on, what are you going to do for us, lad? So, and he knows that, Alexander Isak. So he's not sitting at home now and thinking, hey, it's okay, I've got loads of time. I've got 5.5 years left of my contract. He's thinking, no, I need to get involved. Almost getting to that. I don't know what desperate is the right word, but I played with players who come to Anfield with expectations being massive, and it's not happening, and they can't get in the team, and you sense their frustration, and you look at them, you go, and I would say, of those that I played with, it was 50-50. 50% of them never made it, because momentum is also a big thing, and the other 50% picked it up, isn't it? So, yeah, Alexander Isak would be ever so frustrated, I can guarantee you that. As much as we're all thinking, hey, don't worry about it. No, he's frustrated.
Before we go to talk about Real, because there's a couple of things spinning out of that game, on Isak, did you hear today that he's going to travel with the Swedish national side? I'm really unsure how to feel about that. I presume in many ways it feels like a rerun of the last one where he went into it injured and, got less minutes than we thought he would and so on and so forth. It feels a bit weird, doesn't it? And unless I'm mistaken, there was a story as well that perhaps even Gyökeres wasn't involved. So I don't know what's going on there. Have you any take on that whole thing?
Yeah, I do, yeah. I don't believe Gyökeres is available because he's been ruled out for Arsenal's game on Saturday against Sunderland. So that automatically means he means he misses the international break. I think it's Alexander Isak thinking I need to play. It's as simple as that. He thinks I need to play. Sweden ain't going to make automatic qualification for the World Cup, but through their position in the Nation League, they do have a playoff game. But I also think that he thinks that, to a certain extent, it's a bit self-inflicted, this, with him going on a strike at Newcastle, which then affected not only Liverpool, but also affected Sweden and their chances. So I think he's thinking, I need to get back playing. And it couldn't work out any better. And if he could play a little bit for Sweden and maybe get himself a goal, and just put a lid on it somehow. So I absolutely think that this is a player that has been presented with the opportunity to at least go away with Sweden. Whether that's enough for him to play some minutes, I don't know. But he's been presented with it. And I think he's thought, I can't turn this down, because of the sort of atmosphere it might create, is that the people in Sweden will think I don't want to play for Sweden. No, of course he wants to play for Sweden, but he just want to play for Sweden unless he's right. So I do think that this is something that everybody would have gone to Alexander Isak with. Swedish FA, Liverpool Football Club would have gone to Isak. Well, listen, this is what we're up against. What do you think? And he's gone, I think the sensible solution is to show willing. And to show willing is to at least join up with the Swedish squad, and we'll take it from there. And then the Swedish medical team will have a look and they might say yes or no. It might in the end up with him not getting a single minute in it, but also maybe a change of environment a little bit. But I do think it's a player feeling, I need to get going here. I just can't keep sitting on my hands. Sweden are blowing, potentially going to the World Cup, isn't it? And we can't afford to get any further behind in the title race in the Premier League. So I do think that it's a player feeling a little bit of responsibility.
Yeah, and that could really work for us, let's be honest, and hope it does.